You all set? Good morning. It's so nice to see so many people here despite the absolutely gorgeous day outside, but you'll have more time to enjoy that later. So, oh good, thank you. I wish I were enjoying it. No, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the music. It's so wonderful, and there's going to be lots more. So, I was born the same year as Israel, and I grew up on the ideas of making the desert bloom, equality between the sexes because women served in the military, and the collective dream of kibbutz life. I wanted to live on a kibbutz, even though I'm not Jewish. I loved Israeli music and dancing the hora. Then I married into a Jewish family, and we raised our kids Jewish. I visited the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and was moved yet again by the horrors Jews endured or succumbed to. Never again, the world said. Since the war that erupted around the founding of Israel in 1948, there have been two major Palestinian uprisings in the last 40 years, before October 7th, 2023. Intifada literally means shaking off. The first Intifada, which was overwhelmingly nonviolent and involved a large cross-section of Palestinian civil society, including women and children, began in the late 1980s and led to the Oslo Accords, which were supposed to create a two-state solution in a relatively short time. When the Palestinians saw that this was not going to happen, but was rather going to entrench Israel in the West Bank with more and more settlements and make the Palestinian Authority not the precursor to an independent state, but the enforcer for the Israeli security state, then the second Intifada broke out around 2000. This involved much more violence and the killing of both Israelis and Palestinians. That's when Israel built the wall separating Israel from the West Bank, taking more Palestinian land in the process. As I learned more about Israel's treatment of Palestinians, I went to Palestine, Israel in 2008 and again in 2011 to learn about the realities on the ground. In the West Bank, I saw homes that had been demolished, water diverted from Palestinian villages to Israeli settlements that are considered illegal under international law and under most US administrations, roads that were for Israelis only, and some of the hundreds of checkpoints that hem in Palestinians on their own land. I visited a village where every Friday the Palestinians and their Israeli and international allies conducted a nonviolent march to the apartheid fence, which has since become a wall, that Israel erected through their village after the mutual violence of the Second Intifada, only to be pushed back by the soldiers with guns and tear gas, setting fires in the dry grass. I choked on that smoke. In Jerusalem, I met Israelis seeking justice and peace with their Palestinian neighbors. The Israeli human rights group B'Tselem documents Israeli atrocities in the occupied territories and has concluded, along with Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and many other groups, that Israel is an apartheid state. In New Haven, shortly after the Hamas attack and the ongoing Israeli response, I attended dueling rallies on the steps of City Hall, divided by a little metal, railing, where a rabbi told me the Jews attending were in a celebratory mood, despite 1,200 people, mostly Jews, being killed in Israel just a few days earlier. He said, "We're going to laugh and we're going to dance because we have faith in God, and God chose us to be the people for the land of Israel." At the end of the rally, I asked one of the organizers of the pro-Palestinian side to comment on the massacre of civilians by Hamas because no one had mentioned it yet. And she said, "We Yalis for Palestine hold the Israeli government and the Zionist regime accountable for any and all loss of lives, which are all tragic." It was a perfect microcosm, without weapons, of what goes on in the Middle East. Context is critical. Supporters of Palestine point to the right of an occupied people to resist occupation. Palestinians have been doing it for more than 78 years, violently and nonviolently, but not condemning the Hamas attack of October 7th is morally reprehensible and weakens support for Palestinian freedom and a Palestinian state. After October 7th, I immediately made and displayed banners and signs at busy intersections in Hamden and New Haven, demanding permanent ceasefire now and U.S. stop arming Israel. U.S. taxpayers have been paying $38 billion over 10 years, $3.8 billion a year, but then added to that is about $18 billion after October 7th. For Israel to buy both defensive and offensive weapons from U.S. arms manufacturers. Our money is paying for the 2,000-pound bombs that Israel has dropped all over Gaza and now in Lebanon. A few motorists gave me a thumbs down or yelled obscenities, but many more did the opposite. One young Palestinian-American woman got out of her car and gave me a hug. I was really doing it more than anything for the people who didn't respond at all, to put a different narrative in front of them than the pro-Israel one that most of them had been raised with and had internalized, consciously or unconsciously.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Trimble Shapiro. My pronouns are she and her, and I will be reading a poem, If I Must Die, which is by beloved Gazan professor and poet Rafat Al-Arir, who was killed along with many family members 2 months after Israel's current war on Gaza began. This poem was not written, as has been widely erroneously reported, shortly before his death, but was in fact written in 2011, which illustrates a segment of the long timeline of Israeli occupation. It was written in English, not translated, because Al-Arir wanted to interface directly with the outside world. This poem has since become an anthem of the Palestinian struggle for self-determination. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale. And now we will be having our offertory. Every week we lift up the spiritual value of generosity by asking for your offering for the ministries of this congregation. You can go to our website, usnh.org, or mail to our address, 700 Hartford Turnpike, Hamden, Connecticut, 06517. You may also make your offering by text using the number found in your order of service. Or if you are here, while you sing the hymn, you can put your donation into a plate as our ushers pass them. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
This is a song called Olive Tree, subtitled Roots So Deep, one that Melinda found and suggested would be appropriate for this service. I think it really is. It's sort of a reflection on how elusive peace is in the Middle East and the sadness around that. Roots so deep, they touch the past, rock and earth they hold so fast. Branches cradle the evening sky. Under their shade old voices sigh. Witness here a silent friend. Through every storm it will not bend. Oh, olive tree, you've seen it all. The rise, the fall, the distant leaf still dance in the desert breeze. A song of peace among the seas. Your bark is scarred, your heart is wise. You've watched the sun in countless skies, whispered secrets to the sand of mothers' tears and children's hands. Centuries come, centuries go, but still your silver branches grow. Oh, olive tree, you've seen it all. The rise, the fall, the distant call. Your leaves still dance in the desert breeze. A song of peace among the seas. Stone walls crumble, rivers dry, empires fade, and yet you try. Through every war, through every plea, still you stand. Oh, olive tree. Oh, olive tree, you've seen it all. The rise, the fall, the distant call. Your leaves still dance in the desert breeze. A song of peace among the seas.
Hi, I'm Phil Brewer. I'm a retired emergency physician and a very active member of Doctors Against Genocide. The vast wasteland of rubble that is Gaza. Huh? What's the matter? Oh.
Here, I can just do this.
Okay. That's better for my eyes, too. So the vast wasteland of rubble that is Gaza, children and babies starving to death, including newborns whose mothers can't breastfeed them because they themselves are starving and have no milk. Bodies of children being gathered and placed in plastic bags, dozens of x-rays showing sniper bullets in the heads of young children. Israel is waging a cruel end to the presence of Palestinians in Palestine. Is this intentional? You be the judge. A few quotes. The campaign will last months until all of Gaza is uninhabitable. I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. Everything is closed. We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly. That was the Secretary of Defense of Israel. We are the people of the light. They are the people of darkness. You must remember what our Holy Scripture says. Now go, attack the enemy. Kill all that belongs to him. Spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and sucklings, oxen and sheep, camels and donkeys. That was Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And that's from 1 Samuel, in case you want to look it up. These are animals. They have no right to exist. I'm not debating which way it will happen, but they need to be exterminated. That was the Secretary of Education of Israel. There are no innocent people in Gaza, not even children. They are all terrorists or future terrorists. That was a so-called moderate former deputy prime minister. And in case you think, all of these were men, in case you think that there are no women ministers making such declarations, I don't care about Gaza. I literally don't care at all. They can go out and swim in the sea for all I care. I want to see dead bodies around Gaza. That was the minister for the advancement of the status of women in Israel who said that. There are over 10,000 Palestinians being held without charge in prisons that an Israeli human rights organization calls a torture camp network. They're being starved down to half their body weight, subjected to hours of stress positions every day, denied any contact with their families, beaten regularly with fists, boots, and clubs, and raped by metal poles and even by guard dogs. Dr. Hussan Abu Safia is a 53-year-old pediatrician who is one of over 100 healthcare professionals being held in these conditions. His crime, he was told when his hospital came under attack to empty the hospital. He refused. He had critically ill patients. He's a neonatologist. He had newborns who would die if he followed the orders. Finally, on December 27th, they told him, "We're going to destroy this hospital, whether you leave or not." And so he emptied the hospital, and people did die. And then he was arrested, stripped, blindfolded, handcuffed, and taken to a prison where he has been held and starved and tortured for 577 days now. There are other doctors who have been held for over 800 days now. On July 2nd, his attorney saw him and did not recognize him because 3 days before he had been beaten by 5 soldiers with hammers. And he was so swollen and bruised and lacerated that he was unrecognizable. He told the lawyer, "They brought me here to kill me. You won't see me again. This is the end." We fear for his life. He wouldn't be the first doctor to be tortured to death in an Israeli prison. Dr. Adnan Al-Bursh, who is an internationally known orthopedic surgeon, I should say was, died an excruciating death from sepsis and peritonitis 3 days after soldiers raped him with a metal rod, which perforated his intestine. He was denied all medical care. Meanwhile, the American government is doing nothing, even though none of this would be happening without the support of the American government. The legacy media is not covering this story. When the mother of a U.S. television personality who is on a morning news show was kidnapped The New York Times published 47 articles about her story. 40, I counted them, full-length articles. On the other hand, a Palestinian doctor whose only crime was to work tirelessly to save lives in the hospital that was under siege, when he was kidnapped, the New York Times has not published a single article about him. Even though I, like thousands of people now in this country and in many other countries, are spending hours each weekday making phone calls to government officials to protest their inaction, to encourage his release. I stand against genocide. Where does America stand?
Thank you for that sad and horrible news, but it's important that we know it. Oh, now I have to lower this thing. Wait, there. How's that? Yeah? Okay. When I invited David to play music for my service again this year, he said there's a song he's always wanted to sing, but didn't know if it would ever fit into a service. It's called There Were Roses. It's a song about the Troubles in Ireland, and a song I deeply love. I cry every time I hear it. I thought it would be perfect for this service because of all the peoples around the world who support the Palestinians. The Irish are perhaps the strongest defenders of Palestinian rights and lives. Partly, I think it comes from the fact that both have lived under the thumb of the British Empire, since the British used extreme violence to control Palestine from 1917 until Israel was founded in 1948. So please, David.
Thanks, Melinda. Just a couple more things I'd like to add before starting this song. It's one I learned a long time ago, written by Tommy Sands. Yeah, and I think one thing that resonates to me about this is really the very sort of final lines about how as peace-seeking and peace-loving people may be, there's aspects of conflict that feel somewhat difficult to have any influence over when the administrations of various nations are the ones making the big decisions. So it's something to keep in mind here as well. I usually cry when I sing and hear this song too, so I'll do my best to make it through it, but it's a long song to begin with, so settle in, and we'll give it a try. My song for you this evening is not to make you sad, nor for adding to the sorrows of our troubled northern land. But lately I've been thinking, and it just won't leave my mind. I'll tell you of two friends one time who were both good friends of mine. Isaac Scott from Vena, he lived just across the fields. A great man for the music and the dancing and the reels. MacDonald came from South Armagh to court young Agnes fair, and we'd often meet on the Ryan Road, and laughter filled the air. And there were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. Well, Isaac, he was Protestant, and Sean was Catholic born, but it never made a difference, for the friendship, it was strong. Sometimes in the evening when we heard the sound of drums, we said it won't divide us, we will always be as one. For the ground our fathers plowed in the soil, it is the same. And the places where we say our prayers have just got different names. We talked about the friends who died and hoped there'd be no more. It's little then we realized the tragedy in store. And there were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. It was on a Sunday morning when the awful news came round. Another killing had been done just outside Newry town. We knew that Isaac danced up there, we knew he'd like the band. But when we heard that he was dead, we just could not understand. We gathered at the graveside on that cold and rainy day, and the minister, he closed his eyes, and for no revenge he prayed. And all of us who knew him from along the Ryan Road, we bowed our heads and said a prayer for the resting of his soul. And there were roses, sing along, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. Now fear had filled the countryside, there was fear in every home. When late at night a car came prowling round the Ryan Road, a Catholic would be killed tonight to even up the score. Oh Christ, it's young MacDonald they have taken from the door. But Isaac was my friend, he cried, he begged them with his tears. But centuries of hatred have ears that cannot hear. An eye for an eye, it was all that filled their minds. And another eye for another eye, till everyone is blind. There were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. My song for you this evening, it's not to make you sad, nor for adding to the sorrows of our troubled northern land. But lately I've been thinking and it just won't leave my mind. I'll tell you of two friends one time who were both good friends of mine. Now I don't know where the moral is nor where this song should end, but I wonder just how many wars are fought between good friends. And those who give the orders, they are not the ones to die. It's Scott and MacDonald and the likes of you and I. And there were roses, roses, there were roses, and the tears of the people ran together. There were roses, roses, there were roses.
just end right there. But we're not. So my last trip to the region was in 2011, and I've stayed in touch with Palestinian and Israeli friends since then. But I wanted to include in the service today someone who's been there post October 7th, 2023. My friend Mark Colville was there last December, so I'm going to ask him to come up and share a little bit of his experience. And there are a lot of people crying in this service.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be back here. I love this congregation. I just want to say thank you, Phil, and for your clarity. And I want to remind you, that everything that Phil said is corroborated. Doesn't need corroboration from me. It's all a matter of public record. And in fact, as the quotes indicate, that the Israeli government is not particularly interested in hiding any of this information. Okay, it's our government that is engaged in such complete censorship around this that most of us don't even know half of what was just said. I want to corroborate it with a couple of stories, if we have time for two. I would mention, first of all, that we're talking post-October 7th. I was also in Palestine in the West Bank and trying to get into Gaza in 2009 in the wake of Operation Cast Lead, where the Israeli army used white phosphorus munitions, which is a war crime, crime against humanity, use it on the civilian population in Gaza, and we were attempting to smuggle medicine and medical supplies into, we were trying to transfer them to the hospital in Gaza, ended up smuggling them in. Happy to talk about that later. I had the opportunity both in 2024 and 2025 to travel there with an organization called Sabil, which is a Palestinian center of liberation theology based in Jerusalem. And their basic motto is come and see and go and tell. They're encouraging us from here to go and corroborate this information personally so that we can we can share it here. And among the many Palestinian enclaves that we visited, I want to focus on Al-Khair, which is, I believe, in the southern Hebron Hills, that we visited again, both in 24 and 25. In the fall of 24, we had a delegation there, and we in Al-Khair, it's a tiny village with the most prominent thing is a huge playground for the children, and when we were there in 24, it was surrounded by settlers. In 25, that surrounding they basically built houses right next to, on the fence of the Palestinian land. There was a YouTube video that came out after I came back, about 6 months after I came back. There was a man named Auda who was murdered by a settler named Yenon Levi. You can Google this man, Yenon Levi. He is to put it mildly, he's an insane, probably suffering from PTSD, veteran of the IDF, the IOF, we call it, the occupation force. And he was present in that village in 24 and raising hell. They go around with weapons that are actually made here at Colt Factory in Connecticut. They're arming all the settlers. And they're committing this violence with impunity. The impunity is it's rampant. And as people in Al-Khair blatantly told us, our survival depends on your anger, he said, pointing at us from the United States. Our survival depends on your anger. Well, Yenon Levi, the Auda Hathaline had has like a 5-year-old son who, and again, we were just back there in December and carrying this child on our shoulders after his father had been murdered on video. It's on YouTube of Yinon Levi killing this man, Auda, killing him. And his son was then is now being raised by who they call an uncle, who I believe is a school friend. And they both studied, Auda and his companion studied engineering together. And so this man has taken, I have photos of this man has taken to raising this child as his own. And yet, so again, this is on YouTube. The man, Yinon, was held for about maybe half a day by the local police and then released. And there has been no charges filed. When we returned again, and this was in December of 25, so a little more than a year later, we spent the day in that village. And again, I have photos. They built a little shrine. It's right on the playground where he was killed. And the son and his uncle showed us all that, and we prayed there for a while. And then I'm looking out across the village, and there's Yinon Levi, in and out of a pickup truck, harassing people, screaming at people, just walking about as a free man. And in the space of the 6 months or 7 months, whatever it is, since I've been there, I know that the village has been attacked almost on a daily basis. It's hard to imagine that they've been able to hold their ground there, but that's the reality of most of the places that we visited. Their existence is so tenuous, and it's all it's all based on this impunity, again, which I discovered first in 2009. So if we're talking about, the first thing, we're not allowed to have discourse in this country, apparently, about these things. If we don't start with October 7th, does Israel have a right to exist? And whatever else the stupid questions are that avoid that are built in to avoid these questions. I've been in therapy since coming back in 24, and I don't mind sharing that because because to look into this reality is extremely hard, and yet again. If we don't do it, their lives, they're literally saying their lives depend on our response to this. And so, thank you for a couple of minutes to talk about this, Melinda. Appreciate it. Oh, and last thing is this, on a hopeful note, we visited another neighborhood both times. First of all, back in 2009, okay? There's a man named Fakhri there. We went and sat in his living room in the summer of 2009. He was 2 weeks away from his home being demolished because they don't give any permits for construction there in that neighborhood just down below the old Jerusalem. And he was crying. We cried with him in his living room in 2009, okay? And his home was demolished a few weeks later. 24, we go back. We go to the same neighborhood, and we didn't even realize it until we were leaving that this was the same man, and his home had been rebuilt, and it was under another order of demolition in 2024. And so the long-standing resistance of these folks, if you don't know about it, it is, people talk about Gaza and Palestine as the key to movement, to the world peace movement. And in fact, to have a personal experience of that, that kind of resistance, it's about going back, standing ground, and the land being part of their families is essentially it. So thank you.
Yeah.
You have to know that when you get an order for demolition, you have two choices. Either you demolish your home yourself
when I was there, I visited a family whose home had been destroyed twice, and they were in the process of rebuilding it. I also tried to get into Gaza, I should have mentioned, but you can't, I mean, it's really, really hard to get into Gaza. And Israel let in no reporters from outside Gaza once the war started, which means that all the reporting we saw, you know, on our phones and the videos, all came from Palestinians who were already living in Gaza. And an unbelievable number have been killed and targeted. So, just over 200, that's what I thought, yeah. So, in prep for this service, I've been rereading books about the region. In one, I found the shocking to our ears but true statement that before Israel, the Jews in Palestine were Palestinian. Many Jews and Arabs, both Christian and Muslim, have commented that in those days, people mostly got along, even if they weren't best friends. It was after the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2005 that some former members of elite Israeli units who had served in the West Bank saw the futility of continuing to occupy others' land and violently oppress the indigenous population. At the same time, some former Palestinian combatants who had served time in Israeli prisons wanted to seek an alternative to armed struggle, which they saw as unviable as the way to liberate Palestine, given Israel's vastly superior U.S.-supplied weapons. After some cautious outreach, the groups decided to meet in person, each side wondering if it was a trap. It wasn't. And the group they founded, Combatants for Peace, is celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Combatants for Peace is not the only binational group working for peace with justice, but it is the one I know best. And I'm gonna just ruthlessly cut some of the stuff I was gonna say. But come back at noon, because we're gonna have more discussion. I was gifted this book a few years ago, In This Place Together, A Palestinian's Journey to Collective Liberation, about the life of Combatants for Peace co-founder Suleiman Khatib, written by an American Jewish woman whom he asked to collaborate with him in telling the story. And it's a beautiful book. It's just an example of, you know, the kind of collaboration. That word has a very bad connotation when you talk about this issue, but they cooperated. And let's see. I'm just going to read quickly a couple things, excerpts from the book. Combatants, this is Suleiman talking. Combatants for Peace was trying to think about how to welcome more people, to widen the movement. Though they began with only ex-combatants and ex-prisoners, they quickly changed the framework to allow anyone to join. No one wanted to turn these people away, because in this place, it was often unclear what it meant to be a combatant. In the end, everyone here had been touched by or implicated in the work violence and occupation had done. Suli was proud of this decision, of this movement he'd helped make. And looking at his Israeli partners one day, he realized it was like love, what he now felt for these people, Itamar and Yonatan and Elik and Avner. They gave him the sense of strength that love gives. But Combatants for Peace represented only a small number of people, and that's still true. In one interview, Yonatan, who actually we met when he came to speak at Yale many years ago, a founding member, shared his thoughts on Combatants for Peace years after its launch. Quote, "It was a very important thing for us, the Palestinians and the Israelis. But later, nevertheless, I realized that the framework was problematic because it's not a conflict of equal parties. It's not that you have two countries fighting each other, it's a colonial struggle, colonizer and colonized. So there is a conceptual problem when you come to create something that is based on equal power balance, which it's totally not." So I am going to stop there with my piece, and I've invited my friend Stan Heller to say a few words about how his UU congregation in Danbury voted recently to become an apartheid-free congregation and what that means. Thanks, Stan.
Good morning. I have to play with this a little bit. Oh, that's nice. Okay. So I'm Stanley Heller. I taught school in West Haven for many decades. I'm a retired school teacher, and I work for Promoting Enduring Peace, and I'm also a member of Jewish Voice for Peace. My wife and I lived in West Haven for 40 years in Allingtown, if you know the place. We moved to Danbury in 2020. We had been involved in work for Palestinian rights since the early 1980s. After October 7th of 23, we began attending the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. In 2024, we learned about the adoption of the Act of Immediate Witness by the Unitarian Universalist Association that had occurred that summer. Boiled down, it called on congregations to join the Apartheid-Free Communities Pledge and to, quote, support, boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel and corporate enablers, and end U.S. military aid to Israel until it ceases its policies and practices of apartheid, military occupation, settler colonialism, and genocide, end quote. We learned that the Act of Immediate Witness wasn't binding on any congregation, so we and several others started a slow process of discussing the matter with the congregation in Danbury. I gave a lay sermon that summer. We set up a committee that would meet in person or on Zoom. We handed out flyers at the end of services, started a reading group, showed a film or two, had a talk by the director of the Palestine Museum US, and we sponsored a community dinner. All the while, the facts of the atrocities against Palestinians were coming out, and even the corporate media had to report on some of them. It was impossible to disguise the hunger, the starvation, the astounding number of amputations, the murder of 6-year-old Hin Rajab, and the toll of 20,000 other children who had been killed. There were also the activist campaigns for ceasefire in Bridgeport, New Haven, and a number of other cities, and marches in Connecticut that at times numbered over 1,000 participants. There were also 2 court decisions. The International Court of Justice ruled preliminarily that Israel was committing genocide, and the other was the indictment by the International Criminal Court of the Prime Minister of Israel for war crimes. At the annual meeting of the UUCD in June of 25, there was a vote on the resolution to join the Apartheid-Free Communities Pledge, whose key passage was to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation. There were no opposition votes. We joined the listserv of the Apartheid-Free Communities Pledge and kept abreast of what others were doing. There are no required activities. Over the past year, our committee has been still active, talking about Connecticut's investments in Israel's military company Elbit, showing a film about the student protests at Columbia in 24, joining with others in paying for an electronic billboard along I-95, working for the freedom of abducted Dr. Abu Safia, and successfully getting the congregation to declare that Israel's actions towards Palestinians amounted to genocide. Thank you. Free Palestine.
So I hope you will join me in singing our closing hymn, This Is My Song, number 159.
Everyone who knows Melinda knows that This Is My Song is her favorite song.
Every year.
Everyone now knows this is Melinda's favorite song, so it's great that we're singing it to close the wonderful song.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and wide. This is my home, the country where my heart lives. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating, with hopes and dreams as true and hard as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and vine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover.
It's another song that makes me cry. So our task force has created a little questionnaire we'd love for you to fill out, and we're also going to put it in the next newsletter so you can click on it, anybody who's not personally here. And we'll have it at noon for anyone who can come back, or if you need it, and you can't stay, I can give you a copy, because it would just help inform our discussion going forward. And I would just like to close. This benediction is from W.E.B. Du Bois. The prayer of our souls is a petition for persistence, not for the one good deed or single thought, but deed on deed and thought on thought, until day calling unto day shall make a life worth living. Thank you. I just said it. So if you come back here at noon, we're going to have more discussion with all the folks who participated in this service. And I want to thank everybody who participated in this service. So it was excellent for everybody's role. Thank you.